Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is 4 Paws in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today we are going to be talking about my TBR for the R Fantasy Bingo Board. So the R Fantasy Bingo Board, I didn't know existed until about 3 weeks ago. It's apparently a thing that has been on Reddit for years and years and years. And then I started seeing the Late Night Crew do their videos on it, and this was kind of all started by Rachel. I'll link everyone's videos and channels down below, but it sounded exciting. And one of the things that I want to do is get more into fantasy. I kind of talked about this a little bit more in my stats and goals videos, but I am really enjoying fantasy, specifically like certain types of fantasy. And I want to kind of dive into that a little bit more, and we're just going to try. Will this work? We don't know. Can a contemporary romance reader read epic, high fantasy, and sci-fi? Yeah, this is the stack of books. It's big. Anyways, there are 24 prompts, and this bingo board kind of runs from April 2022 to March 2023. I like these ones that are like not a calendar year, because there's always so much beginning of the year and end of the year content that we're trying to put out, and so sometimes a lot of things get lost. So this like interesting like almost mid quarter of the year through starting a new challenge, it's kind of exciting, right? I don't know that all of these will get done. We shall see, but I did try to make this really accessible. One of the differences that you'll see between my videos and some of other people's posts and videos about this is that I don't read epic high fantasy very often, so there's not going to be 24 high fantasy books on here, because that's just gonna burn me out. So I have intermixed some young adult, and then also this is fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. Anything in that like speculative fiction range can be counted on this. So I've definitely tried to give myself a range, like a variety of things here. So let's get started. There is a regular prompt and then a hard mode prompt for every single prompt. So let's talk about my potential TBR. I do have some anticipated releases on this TBR, books that I obviously don't own yet. So those might change depending on if publishing dates get pushed back or anything like that, or if there are other books that sound interesting that also fit prompts I can use instead. I will do another video probably next March or April. Subtle plug for Veda 2023. I'll do another video talking about the books that I actually read versus the books that I was intending to read. So let's just start. So the first book is a book on R Fantasy's LGBTQIA plus representation list, and the hard mode is a book that had less than 10 votes. I don't know how that's all like determined or anything like that, but the Shades of Magic trilogy was on there and had less than 10 votes, so I'm going to be reading A Gathering of Shadows by V. Schwab. This is the second book in the Shades of Magic. I read the first one. I might reread it. We'll see. But this is definitely a book that I've been wanting to get to for a while. I've had a lot of people like start talking about it again for some reason. Maybe it's because of Gallon coming out. And I started reading this in early 2020. I think like maybe April or May, and I haven't picked it up since, or I haven't continued on with the series, so this will kind of give me that like a bump to do that. The second prompt is a book with a weird ecology, so it can't just be just a fantasy world, it has to be like something specific about it. I'm going to be reading Into the Midnight Void by Mara Fitzgerald. This is the second book in a duology. I can't remember what the duology is actually called. I read Beyond the Ruby Veil, there we go, last year. Really enjoyed it, and this has a weird ecology because it has a blood magic system, and the blood is actually turned into water for the residents because they're in an extreme drought. So I'm calling that a weird ecology. I don't remember what the hard mode was or if that will fit it. We shall see. The third prompt is a book with 2 or more authors, and the hard mode being a book with 3 or more authors. I only have a book with 2 authors. I'm sure I could find one with 3 if I really did some research, but this is just one that's been sitting on my shelf, and Margaret's been bugging me to read it, so I'm going to be reading Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This is the inspiration behind the Expanse show, which I haven't watched. I'm not sure if I want to watch the show or read the book first. I don't know. We'll see. This is a really intimidating series. I talked about this one on my big books on my TBR because there's a ton of books in this series. They're all really chunky. But I've heard that it's really accessible sci-fi, which is something that I've been looking for. So I'm hoping that I love this. The fourth prompt is a historical science fiction or fantasy, with the hard mode being not set in Britain or Ireland, which is harder than you might think. I purchased Dread Nation by Justina Ireland a few months ago, and this is a great excuse to read it. This is a historical fantasy set around the American Civil War with zombies. So that's exciting. I've been looking for a reason to read this, so here we go. The fifth prompt is a book that is set in space, with the hard mode being not originally from Earth, or a character that's not originally from Earth. For that, I'm actually going to be doing a reread of The Darkness Outside Us by Elliot Shriver. This is going to be our group book for the Avengers Initiative Reading Challenge, I think in August, if I remember correctly. It's for Loki. This does fit the hard mode, however, it's a pretty big spoiler as to why it does, so I'm not going to go into detail about that, but if you would like details, DM me and I can talk to you about it, but it does fit the hard mode. The sixth prompt is a fantasy standalone, with the hard mode being not part of our fantasy's favorite standalones. I have 2 that I can read for this. This one I can't remember if it was on the favorite list or not, but we have an Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This is a whimsical fantasy about an artist who is painting the Fae Prince, and they're not supposed to paint with emotion, and she gives him emotion in the painting somehow. I'm not really sure. It's a very short book, which is why I put this on that list. But we also have My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a horror standalone, and obviously horror still will fit in that our fantasy grouping. This is going to be our Avengers Initiative Reading Challenge group book for September or October, I think. I can't remember. Towards the end of the year. So this one could also be read, and it would work. I am going to be reading it anyways. I don't know a ton about this because I don't really read horror. I actually bought it for a video project that I ended up scrapping, so it was really nice that it ended up being a group book, not gonna lie. But this is like an homage to slasher films, but beyond that I don't know a whole lot about it. And I'm okay with that because a lot of times with thrillers and horrors, the synopsis will give everything away, and I'd like to go into it blind. The next prompt is an anti-hero, with the hard mode being a YA anti-hero. That is harder than you might expect. I don't think this one is YA. Based on the pricing of this book, it is an adult price, so I don't think it is. So if you have a YA anti-hero book, recommend it to me down below. But I do have Hench by Natalie Zena Walscott. This is about a girl who does like data entry for a supervillain organization. I don't really know much about it, but I do know that it talks a lot about like how superheroes tend to cause a lot of damage, and like, are they actually net positive for society? So I'm actually really interested to read this one. I've heard very mixed things about it. However, some people that I have like pretty similar taste to have really liked it, so we'll see. The next prompt is a book club or read-along book. Now, you're supposed to be using like the Reddit book club group picks, and so the hard mode is as if you're doing like a current read-along with everybody. I'm not on Reddit as a book reviewer. I don't want another platform. Not gonna lie, I have enough book clubs that we are reading fantasy books for. So I have a lot to choose from. The one that I have written down is Light from Uncommon Stars. This is going to be another Avengers Initiative Reading Challenge group book, and this is a sci-fi with a trans main character, which I'm really, really excited about. I don't have the synopsis pulled up in front of me, but as soon as I found out like space, trans character, hella queer, That's all I really needed to know. The 9th prompt is a book with a cool weapon, with the hard mode being that cool weapon has a cool name. A lot of the examples that they used were King Arthur retellings, because Excalibur is a pretty cool name. So I'm going to be reading Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. This is the 2nd book in the Legendborn series, duology, trilogy, I don't know. It comes out later this year, and so I'm very excited for this. This is one of my most anticipated reads of the year. Legendborn was one of my favorite books of last year, so I assume Excalibur will be part of it somehow. We'll see. The next prompt is Revolutions and Rebellions, with the hard mode being that revolution is the main plot of the story. I found this one to be pretty easy, not gonna lie. I have 2 books that I could use for this. I would like to reread Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Neon, because the 3rd book came out last year and I don't remember anything that happened in the series, so I kind of want to binge this trilogy and catch up on it. So this could be an option. I also have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This is another sapphic fantasy. What is it about sapphic fantasies and overthrowing the government or the empire? The tagline for this says, "Together they will set an empire ablaze." So I feel like this is definitely going to be a revolution or rebellion. The next prompt is name in the title, with the hard mode being someone's full name in the title. So I have a couple of options again for this. I'm not sure that this one will actually work, but we do have Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Barron. This is a YA Cinderella, not retelling, but a 200 years in the future sort of thing, but same world. And then one that will definitely count is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This would definitely fit hard mode. And this is a kind of speculative mystery. Evelyn Hardcastle will die every day until Aiden Bishop can identify her killer and break the cycle. But every time the day begins, Aiden wakes up in the body of a different guest. And some of his hosts are more helpful than others. So this kind of sounds fun, not gonna lie. The next prompt is that the author uses initials as their name, and the hard mode is those initials are a pseudonym. This one does not fit the hard mode. However, so many people have told me that I need to read this book, so I thought this was a really great excuse to add it to it. So I will be reading Witchmark by C.L. Polk. I don't know a lot about this one, but I do know it's kind of whimsical, and I've had this book recommended to me in the comments of so many videos and on Discord and things like that, so I just thought now would be a great time to read it. The next prompt is an urban fantasy, with the hard mode being that there is a POV from an LGBTQ plus character. I felt like this one was pretty easy, not gonna lie, but I am trying to read all of the Shadowhunters books. So the one that I know for sure that has an LGBTQ plus POV character is the Red Scrolls of Magic, but I'm sure that there are others in this series at some point that have an LGBTQ plus point of view character. So it'll be one of these books, but that one I know for sure will. The next prompt is a book that is set in Africa, with the hard mode being that the author is of African heritage. For this one, I'm actually going to be reading a dystopian called Who Fears Death by Nadia Korafor. This one was recommended to me again by Margaret, I think on my live stream last weekend. When I was making this, I was like, oh, I need this book, and I was thinking Rage of Dragons, and everybody was talking about reading that one. But this one seems right up my alley. So this book, like I said, is a dystopian. It's a post-apocalyptic book in a post-nuclear war Africa. I'm pretty sure Bethany has read this one as well. I believe I remember her talking about this one in a wrap-up recently. I'll have to double check. But Margaret recommended this to me when we were on the live last week, and I didn't have a prompt for this. I was thinking Rage of Dragons because everyone was talking about, everyone is using that as this prompt, so I wanted to go in a different direction. Also, this one's only 350 pages and not 700. Again, we're trying to make fantasy accessible here. The next prompt is Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey, and this just makes me want to read Doctor Who. Really? I mean, there are Doctor Who novels, so I could just do that. The hard mode is not time travel, so I guess technically Doctor Who would be time travel. Sometimes. Some of the things are not time travel. Some of them are actually, I don't know. Anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. I have 2 that I could read for this. I have How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This is about a man who doesn't age, and so he's been alive for 400 years. So I guess that's kind of messing with time. But also Blake Crouch is coming out with a new book that I did not know about, and that's Upgrade. And knowing his books, he's going to have something to do with time manipulation in this. but I have no idea what it's about. The next prompt is a fantasy book featuring mental health, with the hard mode being not the Stormlight Archive. And for someone who predominantly tries to find books about mental health in her reading, this one was not as easy as I thought it was. So that's fun. I could do Girls of Paper and Fire for this one because there is PTSD and some other mental health disorders that they discuss. However, you're not supposed to double up on authors or books in this thing. So if I used it for the other prompt, I couldn't use it for this one. So there was a thread of recommendations on Reddit on this like our fantasy bingo thread, and one of the recommendations was the Calculating Stars, and this book has been on my radar for quite a while. It's actually on Kindle Unlimited, and this is a historical sci-fi that's really talking about the women that were involved in the space race, and it's a series, I think, so this one could definitely also be read. In that prompt, it does deal with themes of anxiety. The next prompt is an indie or self-pub book, and the hard mode being less than 100 ratings. The book that I have does have more than 100 ratings. As of reading it, I think it's like at 130 or something like that. So I might choose another one that I can find that has less ratings. We'll see. But right now I do have A Curse and Ash by Julie Xantopoulos. This is a fantasy romance that is fae and poly. I don't know why I haven't read this yet, but here's my motivation to do so. The next prompt is an award finalist, but it didn't win, with the hard mode being not Hugo or the Nebula Awards. I'm gonna stretch this prompt because I'm not really into book awards, except for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I love that. I love the drama that's part of that. So that's the one that I went with, and I understand I'm probably cheating. Those aren't actual real awards. I don't really care. I'm not going to submit this to Reddit, so I don't care. We're going to be reading The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. This is about the wife of Loki, which seems right up my alley. And this was a Goodreads finalist last year, but it didn't win. It got like 3rd place. So I'm going to count it. I don't care if it doesn't actually count. It counts for me. The next prompt is a BIPOC author, with the hard mode being a book by an Indigenous author. And so for that one, I will be reading, actually I am reading, Alatsue by Darcy Little Badger. I'm currently reading this one right now. Really, really enjoying it. The audiobook is fantastic. So highly recommend that. This is a middle grade YA, kind of on that borderline. And it is about a girl who can speak to the spirits of animals, and then she's actually can speak to like the spirit of her cousin, and they're trying to solve what they understand to be a murder. The next prompt is a book with shapeshifters, with the hard mode being not a wolf shapeshifter. I did not have a book for this, so I started looking on the recommendations thread, and they said that the Invisible Library had, or at least like in the series somewhere, there are dragon shifters. So possibly this one. We're gonna read it. This book is on my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months, so like I do need to read this. So hopefully it has them and I can count it. The next prompt is no ifs, ands, or buts, and the hard mode being it has to have 3 or more words in the title, and it can't have if, and, or but. This was surprisingly easy. If it would have been 4 or more words, I could have seen how it would be a little bit more difficult. But with 3 words, like that was ridiculously easy. I have so many books that would count for that. So we have The Black Coast by Mike Brooks. I think the Late Night Crew is doing a read-along for this in the next month or so. Actually, I think they're doing a read-along for the second one. I think they already read this one. So I probably should get on that. So this could count. It's not an if, and, or but. If I wanted to give myself a little bit more of a challenge, I could do A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy I. Lin. This is an Asian-inspired fantasy about tea magic, which sounds great, and this cover is just stunning. And that would also work and would be way more than 3 words. So I don't know. We have lots of options for this one. I also have Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. This is a book that I have been wanting to get to. It's on my backlist TBR, and it's got Ace Rep in it, which is super exciting. So this one probably is going to be a Pride Month read. The final prompt is Family Matters, a book with a family lineage, and I'm currently reading City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and Margaret did say that this one would count for that. So, I mean, I'm less than 100 pages into this right now. So, it's like, you know, I haven't gotten that far yet, but if it works, it works. So that would be fantastic, because I'm already reading it. So, those are the 24-ish books that I might read this year, or in the next 12 months, to complete this fantasy bingo board. I'll link the fantasy bingo thread down below, so that if you are interested in participating in this as well, it's not too late. Obviously, any books that you've read in April would count for this. Let me know down in the comments below if you are excited to see me read any of these. Maybe I'll do a reading vlog of some of them. We'll see. So that is all I have for you today. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video, and all of the other links to my social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.